Now it's time to decide that you're going to accomplish these goals. You're going to put yourself first, no matter what. You are going to make sure you have the time every day to exercise. You're going to make sure that you have everything in your house that you need to stay on track with better nutrition. You're going to make time every evening to, spend some time on self-improvement or meditating or some other form of stress management or whatever it is that's related to what you want to change. And then the next step is to make the commitment. It's not enough to just make the decision. You also have to make the commitment that you're going to do this for yourself. And ultimately, here, what's really important is you're making a commitment to yourself more than anybody else. And this is no different than any other commitment that we make in life. We treat it differently. I know I did for a long time. It took me a bit to kind of get to where I was really like committing to myself, because we tend to be more inclined to break these commitments to ourselves. So it could be helpful to tell somebody else, maybe your partner, maybe a close friend, a sibling, whatever it is. Tell someone else that you trust, that you know will support you. Like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I'm making this commitment to myself. It would really help me if you support me in this, and even help hold me accountable to this. So that's an important step as well, because we are conditioned to believe that it's somehow selfish to prioritize ourselves. And it's really actually about the least selfish thing that you can do. But again, we're sort of, I don't know where exactly it comes from. We get this idea in our head that it is. But if you think about it, when you are at your best, when you feel your best, when you have your confidence, when you feel like your cup is filled, you are going to be kinder, you're going to be more effective, you're going to be happier, and you're going to be just a better overall version of yourself and person to other people around you. And that is going to have a ripple effect everywhere you go. So commit to doing this, commit to putting yourself first, eating healthy, exercising, getting enough sleep, spending time with those you love. This is all stuff that, like, I used to act like it was some kind of option. And it, like, looking back on it, it's crazy. Like, where do we get the idea that it somehow you're a loser if you require a minimum amount of sleep to function properly the next day, or that you need to take a 30-minute break for yourself during the day to eat some food and maybe get some fresh air away from your desk or whatever it is. But like, I mean, I was in these cultures where that was the attitude. It was like you were some kind of loser if you did these things. And it's mind blowing looking back on it now. But like I said, I lived like this for decades. Um, so again, it's like you have to make the commitment, and you have to be strong enough in that commitment that you're not going to let that exterior like attitude of other people or environment, because by the way, a lot of it is perceived. It may not necessarily be the case. But you have to like really like just, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna tune that out. I don't care, like get over what people think, forget what people think. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, like, are they gonna be by your bedside if God forbid you end up having some sort of a chronic illness because you were working yourself too hard and were stressed out for too long and your body finally shuts down on you? Probably not. I'm pretty sure none of those people, that you're killing yourself for at work or wherever it is are going to be there. So you have to kind of put that in perspective, in order to kind of move past this stage, because I found this stage in particular was one of the harder ones to move through, because again, I also had to work through the concern about what other people were going to think of me. Um, and then last is identify and release the limiting beliefs that come up. So this is kind of related to the number 4, right? Like, as you start doing this, and I've talked about this in other episodes, the way that our mind will resist us making these kinds of changes. Our subconscious mind is very like, it's very powerful, and it's doing its job. As crazy as it sounds, but the job of the ego or the subconscious mind is to keep us safe. And safety, as far as the subconscious goes, means things staying the same, no change, nothing's different. You keep in the same patterns and you follow the same everything day in and day out, because that's predictable, that's known. Your body knows how to handle that, your subconscious mind knows how to handle it, because that's the way you always operate. So whenever you do any kind of change, your brain and your subconscious are going to like rise up against you, and throw all kinds of crap at you, like shame and guilt and fear and everything else, even things that are not necessarily emotions. It can be physical things, it can be more subconscious things, self-sabotaging things. So there's so many different ways that our minds will do this. So and part of that is this concept of limiting beliefs that we all hold and have, and these stories that we tell ourselves that keep us in these modes of operation. So if you have a story that, like some of the stories I had was that like you were not going to be respected in your job if you weren't working like 12 hours plus a day, or if you weren't available even when you were at home to respond to an email or answer a phone call. But that was just a story that I had in my mind. And as soon as I made the decision that no, I'm no longer available to take phone calls late in the evening when I'm home, or respond to emails until 1 or 2 in the morning, to try to keep up with things, or to have this appearance of whatever I thought I needed to have, right? So these are the kinds of things you want to pay attention to, so that you can start to shift them and you can start to identify them. And I talk about this process in depth in other podcast episodes that I've done about inner healing, alchemizing. That's really what it is. It's this, what I call the 4 A's. So the first part of it is awareness, right? So becoming aware of the limiting belief or the story, the lie, aka the lie. So if you start to feel guilty, for example, for putting the boundaries up, you have to dig into that. Okay, why do I feel guilty about this? What story do I have around me being first on my priority list, or taking care of my health and well-being, right? So you have to dig into that and figure out what is the story there. And then you can start to do, well, actually that's moving you into the second A, which is analysis, right? So starting to analyze that. Where did this come from? Where did this start? Why do I think this? Why do I have this belief? And then that takes you into alchemy, which is where you're going to start rewriting that story and changing that belief. And it starts with a simple question: is this ultimately true? Is this true that I am not hardworking if I don't answer emails from my job until the wee hours of the night? No, that's not true, right? So that's what you want to start to do, is bust up these stories and these lies, and then you want to start to rewrite them. What does feel better? I'm better at my job when I get enough sleep every night. I am better for everybody that depends on me when I am at my best health and at my most rested, and all of these things, right? So that's how you start to alchemize it and rewrite the stories, rewrite the limiting beliefs, and then you have to affirm it. And that's where the rubber meets the road, is really, the consistent practice of reaffirming these new stories and these new beliefs until you start to really embody them, and you start to feel that shift, and it starts to become more real. So that, my friends, is the process for how you can start to establish boundaries for yourself so that you can be a better version of you and live a life that you love. It can be very challenging at first, and throughout this whole process, as I mentioned, you may find different points that are more difficult for you. For me, like I said, it was really when I had to start to enforce the boundaries and work through these inner like thoughts and limiting beliefs I was holding on to that were, trying to keep me from pushing forward. But I can promise you that it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself, and you will thank yourself one day. If you can kind of work through the burn on these things and keep going until you're able to really get those boundaries established and really hold firm with them. So I hope you'll do this for yourselves. I hope you'll give this a try. I would love to hear from you in the comments. So, if you want to share things that come up for you as you're looking at your own limiting beliefs, what limiting beliefs come up for you, or what feelings come up for you when you think about putting yourself at the top of the list. Where do you think you're going to have the most work to do in terms of making this change for yourself? So would love to hear that in the comments. So please feel free to share those.